Folks, let's dive into the guts of a deal I was tapped to consider when I was building a company through acquisitions a few years ago. Back in 2010, I was knee-deep in Eagle Ford Shale, eyeballing a deal that had more heat than a South Texas summer. Chesapeake Energy was the belle of the ball, sitting on 90,000 barrels of oil in the tank from just a handful of wells in a data room that was stuffed full of enough spreadsheets to choke a supercomputer. The Eagleford was the golden child of the U.S. shale, and Chesapeake had a very big bank, and private equity hotshots were circling like hawks. I was scouting for a private equity outfit loaded with sharp Ivy League kids, some of them from China, steering their cash from their country into the American oil patch. My call? Well, in this deal, I passed. And when the deal finally shook out, I nearly spit my coffee. Chesapeake inked a $1.08 billion cash deal with CNOOC, China's state-owned offshore giant, handing over a third of its Eagleford oil window. That's not all. CNOOC also signed up to cover two-thirds of Chesapeake's drilling cost, up to another $1.08 billion, pushing the total potential haul to $2.16 billion. We're talking 600,000 acres of prime South Texas dirt, wells plunging 5,000 to 11,000 feet deep, with laterals stretching 5,000 to 8,000 feet. For Chesapeake, it was a lifeline to crank up the play while dodging the cash crunch and forgo some risk. For CNOOC, it was a masterclass in fracking and horizontal drilling, skills they'd take home to crack their own shale. Closed by year-end. Chesapeake kept the reins on operations, and off they went. Now let's flip the page to E.F. Schumacher's "Small is Beautiful" and riff on production. He kicks off with a zinger. The world's convinced we've licked the problem of production. The suits and the economists, the bigwigs, they all nod along, sipping the champagne, saying mankind's grown up. Rich countries chase education for leisure, poor ones beg for tech handouts. Schumacher calls nonsense on that. He says we're blind to the real game. We're torching our natural capital, fossil fuels, nature's wiggle room, given our own grit, and calling it income. It's like a shopkeeper eating his seed corn and bragging about the feast. The shale boom meets Schumacher's warning. Now, here's where the Eagleford deal struts into Schumacher's spotlight. That 2010 cash injection, it turbocharged Chesapeake's output. By 2012, they were pumping 52,200 barrels a day, making up two-thirds of the mix. A 371% jump in a year. Slick? Right. Schumacher's ghost is shaking his head. That oil wasn't income, it was capital, yanked from the Earth's deep vaults. Chesapeake wasn't building a system for the long haul, it was maxing out the tap, banking on the next big score. Meanwhile, CNOOC was soaking up know-how, treating the play like a lab for China's shale dreams. Schumacher's point stings here. We're not conserving jack. Fossil fuels aren't a paycheck you cash every month. They're a one-time inheritance. If we treat them that way, we'd be stashing the proceeds, dreaming up ways to live without them. Instead, Chesapeake leaned harder into the shale boom, and CNOOC rode the wave until geopolitics soured the party. By 2023, Chesapeake bailed on the Eagleford entirely, selling out for $3.5 billion. CNOOC cashed out in 2024, flipping its U.S. assets to INEOS for $2 billion. Both made their money, sure, but at what cost? Well, the raw truth of solved production. Schumacher's got this classy jab. Modern man sees nature as a punching bag, not a partner. We're so drunk on tech and science, we think we've got production in the bag. The Eagleford deal, that's a poster child for that swagger. Chesapeake's cash crunch got a quick fix, and CNOOC scored a foothold in the shale game, but neither stopped to ask, what's the end game? Chesapeake's debt ballooned anyway, $9.5 billion by 2020 when it hit Chapter 11. CNOOC, they profited, but their U.S. adventure is now a memory. It dumped amid sanctions chatter. Tactical wins, sure, but the big picture's a mess. Schumacher's not wrong. We're liquidating capital at warp speed. Fossil fuels aren't just the start. The Eagleford's oil boom juiced the economy, but it didn't build permanence. It was a sprint, not a marathon. And that's the trap. We're so busy celebrating the haul and the fees, we don't see the ground eroding beneath us. Schumacher's fix? A new playbook. Production that's biologically sound tech with a human face, partnerships that last. Contrast that with shale's churn, rigs up, wells drilled, assets flipped. It's a machine, not a legacy. Well, here's the Roach take. Look, I get it. 2010 was a different beast. Shale was the Wild West, and Chesapeake's was swinging for the fences. I passed on the deal because the numbers felt too frothy. 500 million was my guess, and it blew past that. Turns out I dodged a bullet for my clients. But watching it unfold, it's a masterclass in short-term hustle over long-term smarts. Schumacher's right. We can't keep treating the earth like an ATM. The Eagleford worked until it didn't. Chesapeake's out, CNOOC's gone, and the play's just another chapter in the shale saga. So what now? We've got the brains and the brawn to rethink this game. Smaller scale tech, tighter loops between workers and bosses, systems that don't just burn through what's there. Call me an optimist with dirt under my nails, but I say we can pivot. The clock's ticking. Let's not wait for the tank to run dry. The bottom line here was building a company around shale wasn't aligned with my operational expertise at that time, nor my best committed team members at that time. Stay tuned for more about these big ventures. Mark Roach, FutureWise Energy, signing off.